yearly training call. I am literally sitting on the floor of like a pretty much empty room because I'm in the middle of getting ready to move halfway across the country. So bear with me on the like half chopped off head. But I really wanted to do a training on opportunity calls. If you're someone who's been on Q Mafia for like a solid year, you probably remember that we had a system when we were first coming in where there were op calls every single night of the week, typically at like 8 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern. And when we came in, there was so much momentum happening. We just kind of got thrown in to like invite these people, and there's an op call every night, and they can come every night. And we didn't really have to do much for that. It was just already there. Brittany was doing that. It was in that really big season of growth. And as we grew and grew and grew, we had more people that were kind of stepping up and doing op calls. And so the schedule itself kind of fizzled, and everybody started doing like their own little thing. And the other week, I voice memoed Casey and I was like, what do you think if we bring back the scheduled op calls? Because I feel like we're in a season where that can be really helpful to just know that you have it and it's every single night of the week. And so we did that. So if you guys haven't seen on the Q Mafia page, we now have an opportunity call Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Every single day, it'll be at the same time, so 8 p.m. Eastern, and then same place, which is Casey's Zoom info. So if you haven't seen that, there's a post in the Q Mafia Facebook page that you can go find. But then also, I uploaded those into the events page, and I'm going to try and do that each week. So you guys can invite your team members or tag them, whatever you need to do. But that's available every single day now, Monday through Friday. And I wanted to do this call because I think since it's been a minute, we have maybe had new people join who possibly don't understand how to utilize this as best as possible, because it actually is a really incredible tool if you are utilizing it to its full like capabilities, right? Especially when you're not the one, if you're a newer ambassador, having to put on these opportunity calls. So the first thing I wanted to kick off by doing is just giving my 5 top tips for utilizing this. And then I'm going to kind of go into more of like a structured call, but I just had some things that I was like brain dumping into my notes for you guys. So first big tip is know the schedule. Know the schedule, be tuned into the events page of Q Mafia, especially if you're someone who has other team members underneath you, you guys. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Just like the saying is. So if you have no idea when the op call is happening, where it's even at, you haven't shared it with your team, most likely no one's going to be there. No one's going to invite, right? So know the schedule. You're a leader. If you're a leader of anyone on your team, even a single ambassador, it means it's kind of your responsibility to keep people plugged in as best as you can, right? You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, but you can at least let them know when the opportunity calls are. So get into that events page regularly. Make sure your notifications for the Q Mafia Facebook page are turned on so that you're getting the invites when they get put in there each week. And then try and just make it a habit that you tag your people real quick anytime you see an event pop up like that. Number 2, make sure you're edifying the right leader. So one of the things that we talked about when we were making this schedule is trying to have it be repetitive people for a little bit. So you'll notice that each week right now, for the most part, it's Casey is on Mondays. So she's doing one tonight, just at the end of this hour. Then on Tuesday, it's Erin DeCure. On Wednesdays, it's Marissa Winterton. Thursdays is Julie Pope, although this week it's Jennifer. And then Fridays is me. And we kind of did it on purpose because edifying a leader and getting the person to come to that call for that person is really impactful. So having it kind of be repetitive people is going to give you the upper hand to really practice your edifying and edify the shiz out of the person who is presenting that night. They don't even need to be your best friend. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. But just know the right leader for the call that you're going on to. So if you were to be inviting someone to a call today, just quick check real quick into the event section and be like, who is even presenting? Okay, this is who I need to edify, right? And then do the invite. And we'll go more into depth on that in a second. Number 3, keep it short and sweet. I'm reading my notes a little bit because I did these a few hours ago. The opportunity call is not always going to work for you. Okay. Jake says a saying that you can't say the right thing to the wrong person and you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So don't feel like you need to give them your autobiography of your story with Q and, oh my gosh, you met Casey when you were in second grade and recap them on the last 20 some odd years. Short and sweet. 30-second voice memo or a 3-sentence like typed out message, I would say max when you're inviting to an op call. Remember that you want to give people curiosity. If you tell them everything that's going to be on the op call before they even watch the op call, you've kind of taken away the power of the op call. Does that make sense? Also, people be busy, man. If you send me more than one voice memo, I definitely listen to the first one and then I'm like kind of like in and out of listening to the rest of them because life, nobody has 7 minutes to listen to your 7 different voice clips that you're sending them. So short and sweet always when it comes to the invite. Reminders is my 4th tip. Again, because people be busy and got a lot of life going on. Oftentimes people do want to come to these calls, but then their kid gets sick or they forgot their Target order pickup or they're cooking dinner and they literally just spaced on it. They messed up the time zone. Like there's all of these different things, right? So do reminders. And I'm actually going to explain to you later in this call how I do mine because I kind of do like a pretty specific system, but reminders. And if you're a busy person, you probably need to set timers in your phone to remind yourself to remind those people that you invited, right? Schedules. And then lastly is consistency because you're going to get a lot of no's. And I feel like this is not something that's talked heavily enough about in this industry. If you invite 10 people and all 10 people don't come to that op call, guess what? That's a really normal day of network marketing, right? You might invite 15 people and get one person to come. And guess what? That's a win. It's okay. But if you only do it every once in a while because you get super butthurt when people don't show up to the op call you invited them to, you're probably not going to go very far in this business. So consistency, consistency, consistency. I think it's Brooke Lloyd that talks about falling in love with the process, not the outcome. So make sure that you are just consistently putting it out there, right? And when the right person is aligned with that invite, it's going to happen and magic is going to come. But just don't let the no's get to you and keep you from being consistent on the invites. Okay, so let's talk the nitty gritty as far as an actual system for this. So obviously first you have to do the invite, okay? This could be a 3-hour training call if we were really talking about the whole system, even leading up to the invite, right? There's a lot of groundwork that happens before you send an invite to an op call, right? And everybody has different tactics for that. So maybe you've been engaging really heavily with this person's profile, or maybe you've been building a relationship for over the last 6 months. Maybe you just met them 3 days ago, but you're like, this person's going to be a killer. Like whatever your system is for leading up to when you're going to do the invite. Okay. I'm not training on that. I'm gonna be honest, because it will be way too long. And I like to be honorable of your guys' time. And I don't want to keep you here for 3 hours. So different training for a different time. But when you get to that point where you're going to do the invite, okay, I recommend a voice clip. I recommend a voice clip for this invite and I recommend keeping it casual. Okay. If you come at them super heavy and desperate, they're probably not going to come because they're going to be like, wow, this is hella MLM-y and I don't want to be a part of it. Right. So keep it pretty casual, keep it short, keep it honest. I am going to give you guys some examples at the end, but if I were to be doing this today, maybe to Casey, I might send her a voice memo and say, hey, Casey, I know we've been kind of talking a little bit about the business that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure if it'd fit in your schedule, but my friend Brittany's doing this opportunity call tonight. She's had so much success helping people just build massive businesses here. She's going to talk about it for like 20 minutes. And I really think you'd enjoy listening to what she has to say. Do you think you could hop on at like 7 p.m. and listen? Or do you have a couple minutes this evening, right? Casual. Don't make it super, super, super. Hey, so I have this great opportunity and there's like this 20-minute informational meeting. And I was wondering if you would be able to spare your time, like casual. Okay. Like you're inviting a friend to coffee. That's how I try to approach these because then people are more apt to come because they don't just feel like you're trying to sales pitch them. And in all reality, once they're on the op call, they're going to realize they're not getting sales pitched at all. We literally don't ask people to buy anything on these op calls. It's just information. So make it low key like that. Okay. So you're going to invite them. when they say yes. Okay. Now they might say no. And if they say no, that's okay. Play it off. Hey, no worries. I know life's super busy. The most common, like I'm gonna say excuse, but reason that I get told no is, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I have something already at that time. Okay, most of the time they probably don't actually have something at that time, but they're just trying to be polite. So just be like, no worries. There's actually one tomorrow. Do you think that would work better for you? Or would a recording work better for you? A lot of times people can be really intimidated by Zoom. I know that that was kind of me before it became like our world, is Zoom felt really intimidating to me. So if somebody would have invited me onto a Zoom, I'm going to be honest, I probably would have come up with an excuse. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I'm like, well, wait, how many people are going to be there? Like I'd have all these questions and I'd feel really awkward. And so I would probably try to get out of that invite, right? But if someone came back and was like, hey, no worry, I know life is so busy, I have a recorded version. Would that be easier for you to watch? I'd be like, absolutely, I can watch it right now, send it, right? So there's so many different types of personalities. So if you get told no, no big deal. We're not desperate. We're not thirsty over here, like Casey says. Roll off the shoulder, offer a different time or a recording. And if it's still a no, have a nice day. Become their friend on Instagram or wherever you're inviting them at. Okay. But if they say yes, step 2 is that you need to make sure you get them the Zoom information. Okay. Now, sometimes you're inviting people to an op call that's happening that day, right? So if you sent an op call right now, we know Casey has one in the next 45 minutes. So you would give them that Zoom information rather quickly, right? They're like, yes, I'd love to come. You're like, awesome. I'll send you over the Zoom information right now. And then I'll remind you an hour before the call. If you're this close, you'd probably just be like, see you in 45 minutes, right? But if it was the morning time or there's any kind of gap between when you're inviting them and when the op call is, remember you're going to need to remind them. And my biggest thing that I have found success with is just telling them what I'm going to do, right? Hey, I'm going to remind you an hour before the call. Right. That way, when I remind them, they're not like, oh my gosh, this girl is like so all over me. Like, why are you so obsessed with me, Mariah Carey status? They are expecting it because I already told them I'm going to follow up with you an hour before the call. Right. So put it out there. If this is a call you're inviting to, that's maybe the next day. Like oftentimes when you're doing Fab Five calls for a new person, right? They're the following day. Now, this is preference, right? You don't have to do it this way, but this is what I do. I tell them, awesome, I'm going to send you that Zoom information in the morning. Okay. Why do I do that? I do that because I try to hold people's attention as long as possible. Once they have the Zoom information, you guys, control completely out of your hands, right? They could ghost you, they could just not show up, right? So I say, I'm going to send you the Zoom information in the morning. And this is what I have people do for Fab Five calls also, because then the following morning, it's a really easy way because you told them that you were going to message them the next morning to send them a message or a voice memo and say, hey, I just wanted to check and make sure you could still come to that op call tonight. Don't call it an op call. You can still come to that Zoom call tonight, right? And when they write back yes, you're like, yay, I'm so excited to see you. Here's the Zoom information. I'll remind you an hour before the call, right? Okay, so that's step 2. However you're doing that, because there's a bunch of different varieties, whatever. There's a bunch of different ways that that could play out, but just make sure that you are really setting the tone for having it be pretty structured with getting them the Zoom information. The third thing is that you're going to follow up with them before the call. The third thing was reminding them. Sorry, remind them of the call. And then actually remind them. So that's where you need to set your own timer, because if you tell them, I'm going to remind you an hour before the call, and then it's 15 minutes before the call, and you're like, hey, oh my gosh, the call starts in 15 minutes. And they're like, oh, I'm still driving home, or I totally forgot, right? So hold yourself accountable too, that you're actually doing what you tell them you're going to do. So you're actually sending them that Zoom information at the right time, or you're actually following up with them at the right time. Remember, this is a business, so you need to be professional and follow those expectations that you're laying out for them. Because as of right now, they are still just a potential. They're not signed up for this business. They don't have any commitment to it. You do. And then lastly is just being on the call. Okay. If you have someone coming to an opportunity call, you need to be on that opportunity call. Unless there is some kind of crazy reason why you can't be. And if that's the case, then you would maybe let the person know that someone's coming or have someone step in to be there for you. But I feel like in most cases, right, you could even sit on an op call with your camera off if you're driving or something. You should be on the op call. Why? Because again, this is setting a tone. From the second that they're coming to these presentations, they are looking to see, how is this person going to be leading me? Are they going to be there to be my support system? And if from the very first step you're not there, right, then it's kind of like, wait, they invited me to this, they're not even here. Sometimes these op calls are huge, right, and there's hundreds of people, and so they wouldn't even know. But sometimes there's 4 people on that call, and if your face and your name isn't on that screen, again, for me, that would be a turnoff. Like, are they really even that invested in me doing this? Like, they didn't even come to the thing that they invited me to. Also, sometimes people talk about really specific stories in the call, right? So if I was inviting someone to Casey's call and then maybe afterwards they're like, yeah, but what did she mean when she talked about that one thing, insert whatever, and I wasn't on the call, I would be like, I don't know, right? And then again, you just don't look super professional. So be on the call, okay? That's what you're going to do to invite to op calls. After the op call, you need to make sure that you follow up with these people. Okay. I would do it rather quickly. Like literally as soon as the presentations are done, if I have someone on there, I message them right after that because I know they were just on their phone. I know that they were literally just on their phone on that op call. So if I message them right after that presentation, I know that they're going to get that message, right? They're not going to lose their attention span. They're not going to forget about it because they waited 2 days. They just heard the information. They just had their phone in their hand. It's fresh, right? And I want to catch them while they're fresh. Now, what I don't do is harp on them. Oh my gosh, hey, okay, are you so excited? Let's sign up. I'm ready to go. Bam, 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 right? Give me $200 to invest in this business. It's casual. Remember, don't be desperate. Brittany and Fran tell this story all the time about how when Brittany messaged Fran played it so cool. Like she could have cared less if Brittany signed up. And that was actually attractive to her because she was so used to the MLM industry, which is thirsty and desperate because people are trying to make a dollar, right? But because Fran played it cool, Brittany was more attracted to that. Like, wow, she doesn't even need me for this business to be super successful, right? So don't be thirsty, but make sure you're professional. Hey, I saw that you were on that presentation. I'm so glad you were able to hop on. What did you think? Or like usually if I've had people on Casey's calls. Casey's funny, you guys. We know this. When this is where it comes down to knowing your presenter, right? If someone has watched Casey, like a recording of Casey or anything of Casey's, I usually say, isn't Casey so funny? Ha 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 ha. Something casual, right? Like I'm talking to a friend, but making sure I make the contact and ask them what they thought. Now, know your person. You're probably not going to message people who watch my op call and be like, Mandy's so funny, huh? Because they'd be like, no, she's not at all. Like, know what you're talking about. This is why you need to be on the call, but follow up with them. As soon as you hear whether they're interested or not, because hopefully they're just going to be straight up with you. A lot of us end our presentations saying like, don't make it weird. The person who invited you here is gonna follow up with you, right? So hopefully they're just straightforward with you and say like, yes, I'm interested in the products or the business, or no, sorry, wasn't my thing. But if they are interested, you need to connect them immediately. Okay. Connection into a 3-way chat, into scheduling a 3-way Zoom, getting them connected with an edified upline. So this is again where it can vary, right? Because like for me, if I invited someone to Casey's call, she's my direct sponsor. So I would just automatically connect them to Casey. If you have a bronze, elite, any form of upline like that, I would recommend connecting there first. They're going to get the fastest response. They're not going to be waiting, right? Sometimes Casey has millions of messages. And so if you connect directly to Casey, they might have to wait a minute. So I would always go to that nearest elite or bronze, but you guys also know like any of your uplines, if you don't have an active sponsor, we're always here for the chats. The point is connect to some kind of edified upline. So how this usually looks would be something like, they said, yeah, that sounds great. I think I want some more information. And I would be like, awesome. I'm so glad it sounded great. You really should talk with my friend Casey. If she was the person who did the presentation, I'd be like, obviously, you just saw her presentation, but she's just such a good resource. I know she'd love to meet you. Could I connect us on Instagram? Or could I connect us in a Facebook chat? If Casey wasn't the presenter, I would maybe say, you know what? You should really talk to my friend Casey. She's actually the one who helped me get my business started here. I'm going to check and see if she's free. But if she is, could I start a chat with us on Instagram? Or could I start a chat with us on Facebook? I just want to make sure you get all the best answers to your questions, right? Something like that. Hold on. I got to text my husband because my son is yelling that he's done pooping in the hallway. Motherhood. So you want to just do that connection immediately. Okay. Now, most of the time, I feel like a solid 99%, people are going to say, yeah, sure. And it's easy peasy. And you just start the chat on Instagram and Facebook, right? For that 0.1% of the chance time where people don't want to do that, my suggestion is before you respond, just go to your sponsor and ask their opinion. Maybe screenshot that response. However, you need support to navigate that conversation. In all reality, it probably will never happen and you will just have people in three-way chats, but you might get a no here and there of people who don't want to do that because they don't know who Casey is and who's this weird chick you're trying to connect me with. And in those cases, just take them case by case and ask for help. Screenshots are very, very, very workable so that we can see the tone and what people said and help you go from there. Okay. Now that you've connected to your upline, you're just back into our regular system, right? Where your edified upline that you connected them with is going to help answer this person's questions, get them any additional information and exposure that they need, and hopefully either close them to join our team and then you go into the launch process, or get them information they need on products and help close them as a customer. And from that point forward, if it's a customer, you just need to go into customer service, right? Which again, is a whole nother topic, could be a whole nother call. So we're going to move on. So who are you even inviting to do this? Like, great, system sounds cool, but how do I know who to even do this to? Who do I send messages to? The short answer is everyone. Okay. I literally put LOL after that. I feel very strongly that there is no wrong invite. Okay. Now you could do it wrong and people might say no because it might not be the right time for someone, but you have to remember that this is all about exposure. So that's my stance on it. I don't feel like any invite to someone is a bad invite as long as you're doing it the right way, which we'll talk about. And your expectation is that you're just exposing them. They might say no, they might say yes, they might have absolutely no interest, right? So that's the short answer to that is I think everyone's a good invite. But specifically, we're going to be talking about how most of us work, which is like on social media, I think, or even in person. You want to kind of go for your target audience. We actually learned about this last winter up at Silver Summit. The demographics for what we do here at Q are actually pretty specific. I think they said it's like an age bracket of typically like 30 to 50. It's people who have families, right? Like you will kind of know who your target audience is, I think, depending on the kind of content and how you're sort of approaching this. Like I don't typically just message a bunch of dudes to come to opportunity calls, like single skater men, right? That's not my demographic. That's not my target audience. Now, could I invite someone like that and have them come and join the team? Sure. Is it probably going to be a positive outcome? Probably not. So just know your target audience. I always talk about her on she thinks I'm obsessed with her, I'm sure. But Erin does really, really good recommendations on her Instagram for how to target your audience. So if you haven't followed her, you should, because I just feel like out of everybody I follow, she gives some of the best advice on how to niche down your audience and invite those people. But really quick places to go, people who already watch your stuff, you guys. If you have people who are regularly watching your Instagram stories, they're liking your content on Facebook, you've known them for a long time, right? That kind of thing. Those are people who are already being exposed to this. You've already talked about it. They've already kind of seen it. When you message them and invite them, it's not something super random because they've probably seen at least one thing that you've put up about it, right? That is where I would start. I would start with the people who are already semi-exposed. and go from there. Now, once you've kind of gone through a lot of your semi-exposed people, you can maybe branch out and go to people who are a little bit less exposed, or you can create those new relationships. But if you're talking about like, man, I haven't invited to an op call in a really long time, I'm gonna raise my hand for that and be honest. It's okay. We had the holidays. People got out of their systems, out of their ways of running their business. If it's been a minute, that's where I would start, because you have a warm market. Everyone on this call has a warm market and they all know what you're doing. Even if you haven't talked about it for half a second, you've talked about it at some point. And that person who's been your neighbor for 15 years, or you've known them since third grade, they've seen something. So start with the people who already watch your stuff. Make it casual. Like if I were doing an invite like this, maybe for an Instagram story viewer, I'd say something like, hey, Jen, I noticed that you've been watching some of my Instagram stories. I've been meaning to invite you and I've just been so crazy busy with all the move stuff. But my friend Casey, I'm sure you've seen her. I tag her in everything. She's doing this presentation tonight about the business that we've been working together. I've just had you on my heart. I saw you share recently you were trying to leave your job. I feel like this would be such a good fit. And Casey has helped so many people start businesses, specifically with Q. I was wondering if you would want to hop on and listen to what she has to say for like 20 minutes, right? That was off the top of my head. That could have been a lot better, but you get my point, right? Try and make it personal. I mentioned that she was trying to leave her job. I saw that she was trying to leave her job, right? I noted who Casey was. I noted that Casey has been really successful in this industry and that it's a 20-minute call. Sometimes people get very nervous that you're inviting them to something where they're going to earn free pots and pans if they sit there for 5 hours. That is 100% the belief of what we do, you guys. Just be aware of that. I have sat through that. My husband's wedding rings, actually, for free, because we sat through a 5-hour presentation on timeshares. Gonna be real. I was like, I'll take the free rings for sure. But it was 5 hours. Okay. That's what people think we're inviting them to. So just tell people it's quick, 20 minutes. Okay. Another, looking at my notes real quick. So yeah, I would start there with those audiences. And then I was going to just give a couple more, like examples of verbiage. Again, these are off the top of my head, so please don't pick me apart. Jake Spencer already did that and it was brutal. These are just things that I've picked up over the training. So you want to edify to a person, not the company. Okay. So that's why knowing the presenter, right? Casey tonight, I'm not going to edify Q and invite to Q, right? I'm going to invite to Casey. So let's say that I have a neighbor next door. Not to get political, but she's in nursing. She's trying to leave nursing, right? And I run into her when I'm getting the mail. And I'm like, hey, Mary, how are you? She's like, good, how are you? I'm like, oh, I've been so great. It's so nice seeing you. I've been seeing you talk about, leaving your work recently. That must be really hard. And she's like, yeah, it's so stressful. We're just really trying to figure it all out. I'd be like, you know what? I've had you on my heart. My friend Casey, or actually I'm going to use Brooke. My friend Brooke, she was actually in nursing for a long time. She's been having such crazy success working with this e-commerce hemp and health company. I'm not sure if it'd be something that's up your alley, but she does presentations that are like 20 minutes long where she talks about how she's helped tons of people be able to kind of get their foot in the door with an online e-commerce business. Would that be something that I could get you some info on? Or I'd love for you to come listen to her share her story. I think you'd really connect. She was in nursing for a long time too. Casual. I didn't talk about Q at all. I talked about Brooke. Okay. Again, watch other people give examples because I'm definitely not the best at inviting. But the point is, you want to make sure that you are not just talking about Q. This company, this comp plan, this, that, these products, right? They're going to get all of that information, but people join people. And people join people that they relate to specifically. So if your next door neighbor, Mary, is trying to leave nursing, I'd be all up on Brooke Lloyd's team page, seeing the next time she's going to do an opportunity call and be inviting Mary, the nurse, to Brooke Lloyd's op call, right? Or if you know someone who is pregnant and they also have a toddler, named Jay with a mullet, right? I would be inviting them to Casey's next op call. Like, know your leaders and what their stories are a little bit like, because you can be really strategic with this and invite people to people that they'll relate with, because we join people who we can see ourselves in, right? Casey's story is going to be really, really powerful to people who see themselves in Casey, because then when they're watching her present this, they're getting all of this information about how great this business is. But what they're seeing is, well, dang, if Casey can do that, I feel like I relate to her so much. Maybe I could do this too. Or if people are watching Brooke Lloyd's op call, previously being a nurse, and they're like, oh, I really relate to that because I'm also a nurse and I would love to leave my full-time job to stay home with my kids. It makes it that much more powerful because it's relatable. Okay. My very last thing that I'm going to talk about with this before we hop off, because we've gone past how long I wanted to, is just that you will not be great at this when you start. You're not going to be. And a lot of us, honestly, like even as I'm giving you guys examples of messages, I'm like, oh man, that could have been better. We're rusty, guys. It's okay if you're rusty. You have to get back on the horse though, because if you don't start doing it, you're not going to get better. And a lot of times I hear from people who are like, I just don't know how to say it that way, or I just feel like I don't say it good. I didn't say it good either. I still sometimes don't say it good. I send a lot of voice memos where before I click send, I'm like, oop, drag to the trash can. That was awful. Redo it, do it and do it and do it, and then do it some more. That's why consistency is so important, because every time you send a new message, you're going to get better. It's going to feel more natural. You're going to sound more comfortable, right? When you're inviting people to these things and you sound like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm so awkward, people feel that. They can hear that. So the more you do it, the more comfortable and confident that you're going to get, and you're going to have more people showing up to these calls. And then when you're just throwing them into the system where it's like, yeah, I just invited you to an op call. And so now they join and they know that what they're going to do is the same thing that they watched you do with them. It starts momentum. Okay. And when momentum gets going, you see things happen, like people moving forward in this company. Op calls. If you're doing anything right now to kickstart your year with this business, invite to op calls. Use these weekly things that we have going for you guys to your advantage, and take control of everything and teach people on your team to do the same thing. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. I was going to open for questions, but I waited a little longer than I wanted to. So if you have questions, we ask them in the Q Mafia team chat, and I'll be sure to answer them in there. And then share this recording with the people. You guys, remember, be a leader, duplicate things down, send them these recordings, make sure they know about all of these nightly op calls, and get people plugged in. Bye. I hope this was helpful.